Hello, we are back for another episode. I guess we can call it episode of Shoebox Connect. No, Shoebox Conversations. See, I'm already screwing it up. That's okay. We're gonna have fun. We are here for Shoebox Conversations with the fabulous, talented Palmer Earl. Welcome, Palmer, who is with us from New York. And then we also have joining us Sheli Silverio and S. Vollie Osborn. We are going to have a great conversation about her work, both past and present, and about what we're all kind of going through right now. And yeah, and kind of, so I guess to start that off, Palmer, you're in New York. So you actually live in LA. So did you go to New York because of COVID? What are you doing out there?
I'm from New York. And so every summer I spend usually a few weeks here with seeing my parents and my sisters and all the nieces and nephews. So I couldn't skip this year without my mom killing me. So we drove here. And since the numbers are so low here, it's really nice for the kids. I have kids and they can play outside and see friends, and it's much more normal. So we're going to stay here just for a little while longer, but I miss LA. I miss my studio.
Yeah, I know that must be hard, not being able to get in the studio.
It's really hard.
And you were saying earlier that the kids are now, in school online, so you're dealing with that too.
Our babysitters are in LA also, so that's a strong drawback.
Yeah, you have to be creative in whole new ways.
Yeah, I'm not a teacher.
Yeah. So have you been able to create work while you've been in New York? What have you been up to?
I've been sort of doing a different direction. I've been doing a portrait. So for my sister, I promised as a wedding present 7 years ago or something that I would paint her kids one day when they were born and old enough. And now she's called me up on it, so I'm painting her kids. It's been taken a while. I don't have much time to consistently work when I'm here, so
yeah,
I'm just thinking about my own work all the time, and I'm gonna try to sketch some things down while I'm here.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully, showing your work on the slides as we go through them and talking about it will give you more inspiration and,
I do a lot of research in my work, so
yes.
I read various books. I've been doing pretty well with my research reading. Yeah.
That's good. That was the one thing, when we first met, I know we talked about a lot that you have notebooks and tons of notes and, from all of your research. And I mean, the subject matter that you deal with, which we'll get into in a second, the feminism aspect and the idea of women, women's roles in society throughout history, of course, there's tons of information and history to cull from and, look at. And it's interesting, when I was putting the images together for your slide, I'm like, I saw so much more, a bigger thread through all of your work. I looked at your work separately, as we've shared it or, but as I was going through it and putting it in one folder, I'm like, oh, look at that, or look at this, and we'll talk about it as we look at the work. But I was excited to talk to you, more, and I know Sam and Sheli are too, for sure.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and share the screen. Let's see here. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, there's my studio. I'm in.
Yeah. I know. Perfect. That, to give you a reminder. I wanted to share your studio and, your outdoor
my garden.
Too. Because I know that must be inspiring for you to work. Definitely. And just,
that's where I do most of my school.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, that's where I usually sort of come up with ideas in the garden. I usually sketch and work on ideas while I'm in the garden, and then bring them down to my studio and get more of the composition.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah, and just, how I know like every artist like works in a different space. Some people use their kitchen table, some people sit on the couch, or how does your studio, I mean, I know like you create different types of work and it's very comfortable. It's just like the way you have it set up. And is it inspiring for you? Is it I know you can't wait to get back there, so of course.
Yeah, it's like my own little clubhouse.
Yeah.
I love it. I have all my extensive notes and my notebooks and sketchbooks everywhere that I can look at, and most of my reading materials I keep down there. There's also a hammock that comes out, which is very nice and cozy to sketch or read in.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it
I
there.
remember, yeah, when we first met, you were talking about the hammock. And I'm like, everybody gets the hammock in their studio.
Yes, I'm big on hammocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's dive into some art, and let's see if I can make sure this works right. I wanted to start off with the butterflies. So tell us about this series. Like, it's like this battle, this tug of war. Tell us like where it came from and what's going on here.
Okay, well, usually if there's a certain something that's bothering me, or just that something that I keep thinking about over and over again, it turns into visual, I guess, metaphors. And then once it does that, I can process it better. And I have issues with depression, and on and off. And so at one point, this was, I don't know, a while ago, maybe 7 years, I'm not sure, 10, I don't know. But it became, I was thinking of it like a battle in my brain between good, healthy, positive thoughts and really negative thoughts that can ruin your life if you're not careful. And so I did a whole battle series of the butterflies representing the good, positive thoughts and the right track to take, and versus the thoughts that are very harmful in my life. So the moths are battling against the butterflies. One's a tug of war and one's just a regular battle. They have little spears and things. It's hard to see here, but in the background there's brain. It's very hard to see on these, but it's not dirt. There's like little brain lines.
Oh, okay.
So you could see that they're in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely get that feeling and get that sense, dealing with anxiety, and especially so many people right now are, stressed out and depressed and anxious over everything that's going on. And we have so many thoughts in our head that, that's like seeing the image on the left with, with all of the butterflies and moths flying around. That's like what our thoughts are like, exactly.
Even for regular, normal people without problems.
Exactly.
I think there's something very cool too about how delicate the moths and the butterflies are, and that being the representation of those thoughts is something that is very fragile and easily broken in a battle like this. Yeah, there's wing shrapnel on the ground.
I think another thing that I always thought was interesting about this series is I know that there's this thing of like butterflies being good and the moths being like the more dangerous thoughts, but I've always found it like on some of them, the moths are so beautiful too.
They are.
I like we have this like kind of like play of like what is good and bad, and like that sometimes your more dangerous thoughts aren't necessarily bad. You just like kind of have to work through them in a different way, and you don't want them to take over. Right. But they still have their own place, in your mental health. But I think that was the thing that I always found that was really fun for me in this series, was like, what is good and what is bad.
Yeah, it's true. The moths, as I studied these are all specific, butterflies and moths that really exist. So in studying all the moths, I kind of, as far as the beautiful part goes, they were both equally beautiful by the time I finished studying them. I don't know what
I
that
love that.
means, but
I love that as like a metaphor for like figuring your own things out too.
yeah,
Exactly.
you just have to learn to deal with them in the right way, not necessarily get rid of them, I guess.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
yeah.
That's it. The other thing is how they're all rendered. I mean, these two pieces specifically are just so detailed and so beautifully rendered.
Thank you.
You know, and I know you take a lot of time with your paintings, and you could tell, you know, and that carries over into your other work too. And so that's why I wanted to start with this one also. Which brings us to, yeah, I know. When I was looking
And about my depression.
well, we already started talking about, about it. And, you're not alone. And that's what's amazing about your work is it's universal. I mean, so many people, go through depression and anxiety, and some don't get help for it. And some, and so I believe, like, as artists, we have to, I mean, that's what we do, is we do this work for ourselves, but also for others.
Right.
To feel it, to see it, to grow with it. And with your work, and we'll see this thread, through the rest of the slides, they're like these holes and these breaking through. And it's interesting because I'm dealing with that in my own work in a different way. And so I really relate to all of this.
Yeah.
So tell us about these pieces.
Well, the one on the left is just, it's just about the pattern, that how, even though sometimes I'm not feeling weighed down by depression and I'm feeling okay, but then it's always cyclical. Like then all of a sudden I'll be very down again. And then it's hard to see maybe, but there's this is ice. It's supposed to be sort of like falling in an ice hole.
Oh, okay.
And so it's hard to see, but there's footprints that kind of come out of the ice hole and they're in a circle towards the hole again. So it's just that, you can pull yourself out from feeling really your lowest low, but then inevitably you end up back in there. So it's just sort of this perpetual circle.
Yeah.
And then the right one is just, it's sort of the same type of idea. It's basically just clawing your way out of, the crap when you're just super down and need to get back to your real life and try to be positive and cut through all the webbing that can cloud up on everything in your life.
Yeah. And, we'll look at, one of your pieces at the end where, the figure is actually breaking through the paper with the animals and that. And, so I love that progression, in your thoughts, in your, maybe what you're going through. And so it's cool to see these, at the beginning, and then to see where we're going to end up. And we'll talk about that as we get there. But, and then of course, I love these two pieces.
Oh yes, this is the only time I've sort of painted my children.
I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, they are my children, but
yeah.
I don't usually do that. I don't usually do faces too much. But anyway, this is just about, when I had kids, I just never realized, I'm always working on myself as a woman and trying to, break all the bad habits that women get into, like always being nice and polite and saying sorry and all that sort of stuff, and criticizing your own body or other women's bodies, that sort of thing. But when I never realized, when I had kids, it became such a constant, like, so difficult, because I have to constantly monitor what I'm saying out loud in front of my daughter. And it's basically like how she sees me look at myself is going to really affect how she sees herself. So, it's weird when she's with me and I'm looking in the mirror doing something. I have to always be positive so that I'm a positive role model for her, and she doesn't have body issues. And then the second one on the right is how it's also all over the media. This is just like a sample, a pretend black carpet event where the men all look pretty normal and they're all wearing the same outfit, and it's not really important what they look like, but all the women have to be like totally dolled up, like they're just objects, and stand in these ridiculous poses where your legs are crossed and you don't even know how they're not falling over, while the men just stand there like normal human beings. And like, it's just that my kids are seeing that, and I'm wondering like what, if that's really gonna, if she's gonna think that she has to stand like that all the time and just always be like a showpiece instead of a person. So it's just about that, I guess.
I think there's something very nice too about the verisimilitude with which the two kids are rendered here in this one, where they're looking at the screen, and how the thing that they're looking at is flatter, less detailed. And you get that idea of like, no, these real human beings are going to be looking at this facade of what it's like to be a real human being and taking that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. There's a book that I'll send you the information for, and oh gosh, I can't believe I can't remember. Her name is Brittany, and I can't think of her last name offhand, but it's she wrote a book called Fat Girl Walking, I think it's called, 2 or 3 years ago. She wrote it because she also has a daughter who at the time was like 7, 8, 9 years old, and she realized exactly as you were saying that the way she was talking, you know, was projected on her daughter, or, you know, or she was afraid that her daughter was going to pick up on, you know, the negativity in her own self-talk. And so I'll send you the information. I think you'd really like it. But yeah, it's, you know, I always wonder where, you know, my body image issues came from. And I'm sure, you know, it's related not just to media, but to family and friends, and, you know, it's all around. It's just, you know, how we work through it. And,
Yeah.
you know, but, you know, at least, I mean, you're aware, and you're, you know, I mean, which is amazing that you're able to, you know, think about it now in terms of your daughter. And
yeah, I mean, I'll definitely screw her up some way, but hopefully not that way.
Yeah, but no, these are two powerful pieces. And, you know, they're also, you know, along the lines of that feminist, you know, I mean, all of your work has this feminist slant. Of course, it's all personal and autobiographical. And so, yeah, I definitely needed to share these when we talked about your work. And then we start to get into, you know, like the animalistic, the ritual,
this was like a kind of, in my life, I had trouble having my babies. So, well, they're almost 7, but they're still my babies. And I had to do fertility treatments. And one of the things, I'm always interested in stories that involve women, or mythology I've always loved. And I did a whole series of these. They're ancient goddesses. And I just, back a long time ago, before doctors and fertility, I mean, supposedly scientifically proven fertility treatments, there were all of these goddesses that you would pray to if you were having fertility issues. And it just seemed so nice to me that, like, I wish that was what, I know it wouldn't necessarily work, but it seemed like such a nice idea to pray to these women, these powerful women that are goddesses and animals. It seemed much better than going and getting shots and all the stuff that goes along with IVF. But I kind of turned it around and made it like they were the goddesses of the fertility treatments. So they're all sort of undergoing fertility treatments in these paintings. But that's Hathor on the left, and that's Artemis on the right. And they're both, you know, powerful fertility goddesses.
The stars continued into Hathor out of the sky.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's part of the myth. Her milk was the Milky Way, and the earth came up out of the milk was the sea. And
yeah, just done really, really wonderfully here.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. And, you know, again, it just goes to the research. I mean, you could tell the research that you put into these, and and again, the layers of meaning and metaphor, and yeah, just really powerful, beautiful work.
Visiting parents, they still have wall phones.
Oh, did it ring? We didn't even hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, and then we get into your show.
Yeah, this is sort of back to the body image stuff. What started with that, the first one I did was a bunch of women sort of hiding under shells, a big beach scene, and there were a bunch of women under shells kind of poking out, and it just sort of, it started as just a painting about the struggle every year when it's summer and you're going to be in your bathing suit in front of the world, basically naked, how it can feel like really scary, and it's just like a lot of pressure for women to be ready to be shown pretty much naked to the world every summer. And it started like that, but then it also became sort of a metaphor for just not only about body images, but just being able to be your authentic self and not be afraid to be, to be afraid to go and get what you want out of your life and not be held back by ways you think you should be behaving or not behaving. And so these women are not being true to themselves, and they're hiding and missing out on a lot of real life, basically.
They're I mean, it's dealing with body image issues myself. I mean, I can very much relate. There's sometimes I hide in a shell, and then sometimes I talk about it, and I do art about body image and self-acceptance. And it's just like with depression or anxiety or with anything, it's it's an ongoing thing, and I think we just work at it all the time. Yeah.
I think a thing too that I've always really liked about this series is that idea that you have of the fear of exposure and coming out plays through, but in a lot of them, the women inside the shells are in the process of coming out, or there's a movement through. And I think there's this like hint of bravery there too, that like, no, this is a thing and it happens, but like these people are doing it, and slowly and to different degrees, because I think usually that stuff is a process.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I'm sort of in a point in my life where I just don't want to be held back by silly reasons. I just want to go for what I'm trying to do in my life, and get the bravery to act how I feel, and not just
one of the other ones that's not up here, but it's the broken shell at night on the beach.
Oh, yeah.
And I really love that one, especially in the context of the series, because that one feels like freedom. Like she's not even there, destroyed the shell and left the beach. And
yeah. Yep.
There's definitely a progression, in each piece. I'd love to see it as a book in itself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that might be kind of fun.
Yeah. Again, the rendering of these pieces is just beautiful. The water and I love like both of these pieces. I love the hands, the way that you portray the hands, and which are, I mean, there's so much emotion and so much power in the hands, as far as like, grabbing the rope, and, whether she's pushing off or, pushing out of the shell or in the shell, or, there's definitely a lot to these.
Yeah.
For sure. And then of course, these are like three of my favorites.
Yeah, that's my triptych. It's well, the main thing I'm working on now is I'm just curious about when in society, what events took place, and I'm researching all the things that were written down, or events that took place, and religions that were started, starting from about 20,000 years ago, but more like around, I don't know, 1000 BC, I would say, is kind of where most of the stuff starts. And just, I'm looking at like what major social influences affected how women are seen and treated today, because I think a lot of it started back then. And this is about the Iliad, which is still a pretty big book. I mean, they still read it in school, and it's still considered, you know, all the male philosophers and writers back in ancient Greece are still thought to be like some of the smartest, like, brain heroes in the world, you know, and but they were very damaging for women. And the Iliad, basically, before there were this pantheon of Greek gods, there was mostly one female god, and she was the main goddess. And then what happened when the male gods became more popular, that all the female gods who were really more powerful originally than the male gods got split up into all these minor goddesses that are not as powerful. And they can't be a complete goddess that is all powerful. They all have to be like little fractured pieces of the main goddess. So it's Hera is the pregnant one, and she's sort of like the wise mother and the nurturing one, and she's also vindictive. They're all very like jealous and kind of bitchy, which is annoying. And then Aphrodite, the middle one, like she is now just a sex object, these were all originally one goddess. And then Athena, and she's the one who's all the men like as a friend, and she's like a good protector of Athens, and she's great with battle strategy and stuff like that. And people respect her, but of course she's a virgin. So, you know, once you have sex, you can't also be respected. It's just basically I painted the parts of the women that they are most famous for, and it's not their brains, their physical attributes that are now just all they have left instead of being one all-encompassing goddess. And those the Iliad, they're made with pages of the Iliad.
I really love this and the few others that you did that have this theme, and I think it's nice. Margaret Atwood had the Penelopead, where she did an epic poem of Penelope, Odysseus's wife, and her journey during the whole war and everything. And then Madeline Miller put out Circe a few years ago, which is that same kind of like, okay, let's take these female characters who are a part of this mythology and make them into real whole characters with lives and interests. I feel like this fits nicely with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Have you read The Alphabet versus the Goddess?
I have not read that one. I think it's on my list. I have like a long list of things I have to read, but no, I haven't read that one yet.
Highly recommend.
When God Was a Woman is a really great one too. I don't know, but that's probably my favorite one so far. Yeah. But that's good.
Let's see.
So I deal with this a lot, this theme.
Yeah. And then we have more that I think are part of the series or around the same time.
Yeah, it's also mostly about the goddess religion. And so I don't know, it just was totally crushed by when the Judaism came about, and there was it's hard to explain all of this, but I guess over thousands of years, there were all these northern invaders that came down to the Mesopotamia region, and that had been a peaceful world previously, where it was mostly the main goddess was the major god, and there could have been lesser gods, but usually it was the female goddess that everybody worshipped. And snakes in that religion were very key, and they were thought to be magical and a way that the goddess would talk to the priestesses through the snakes. And then, you know, the people that only worship Yahweh came along, and they forbid anyone to practice goddess religion, and they made them destroy everything. And they took one of the most sacred things in the goddess religion, which was the snakes, and made it the evil snake in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And also women. They cut down women and snakes. Basically, they tore apart like all the major pieces of the goddess religion, and they took what they liked and made it their own, and the rest were ruined. It was just a way, I think, basically to make sure that the men stayed the boss and that the men got all of the, property and money and all of that stuff.
There's a similar thing too in China, and I'm gonna forget the name of the goddess, but when Christian evangelicals were going to try to convert China, they had taken a very well-beloved female goddess and started telling the people they were trying to convert, oh, that's Mary. It's just Mary from the Bible. But what they did was they took this goddess who was her own thing and made her a vessel for a male.
Yeah, they did that too with Catholicism. A lot of people kind of switched over to Catholicism because they, once Christianity became a thing, because they could put all of the old worshiping of the goddess and just focus their energies on Mary, and it was a way to still have it, but not really. Yeah.
So tell us about the piece on the right. You're using the pages again of, I think this is the Bible or the New Testament?
The Old Testament.
Or the Old Testament, sorry.
Yeah, the Old Testament.
And
basically,
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that just the Old Testament itself with its new creation story, and it just took apart the whole goddess way of life, where in the goddess religion we were all part of the goddess and the earth was part of her, and we were all part of nature, and celebrated nature. But then in the Old Testament it's there's God, and then there's all of us down here, and you guys are, we're made of dirt, and we're not part of him, but we are in charge of the earth and in charge of animals, and it's just a whole different way of thinking, and so I think it's been going on too long, that way of thinking, and it would be, I like to imagine that it's going to swing the other way, and that women not necessarily will be in power. I think we should all share the power, but that's what it was like when in the places that they worship goddess religion as their main religion, because it was there wasn't man and woman, women made second, women made of lesser things. Everyone was equal, and so in this picture they're burning down the Old Testament and going back to a way of life that I think would be more useful in this era.
I think too, there's a really cool thing that you're getting at that I didn't see until we were just talking about it, but that idea of we'll let you have your feminism as long as it fits into our patriarchy.
Yeah.
Which feels still fairly relevant of a point to me.
Yeah. So that's true. I don't know. Some people think it has to swing back completely the other way for it to then be in the middle. So I don't know if that's true, but I don't need it to be all, I don't need all of just women to be in charge or anything like that. I just want us to be both the opportunities of, equally respected, and just more women in power.
Exactly. We want those seats at the table. Yeah. Definitely.
It's crazy.
And, this one, of course, it's that whole thread throughout the work that we've shown of, being in the hole and like just breaking through. And those are very personal for you. And then we get to, like this piece, which, of course is personal because all of our art is personal, but again, it's universal, and you're talking about, all women, and, and you're really like breaking through with flames with, and so I love how, even though like the images can be emotional, and psychologically, like mentally tough, especially when you're going through depression and things like that. But there's also this sense of like inspiration and power. And it's like, yes, we're going to break through this. We're going to, we're going to overcome, and I mean, I love that looking at your work.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's sort of an exciting time because people are becoming much more conscious of how women are treated and seen. And finally, people are starting, even just, you know, everywhere in the world, it's sort of like a topic that everybody's talking about now, which is very exciting and at least a step in the right direction, I hope.
Exactly. I think
We're breaking through, boys.
I'm sorry?
I said, we're breaking through, boys.
Yes. No, not just feminism, but racism, you know, gender. Yeah.
Everything's towards for the better, I hope. Equality, bottom line.
Exactly. And then I think I have one more slide here that I wanted to share these because they also, of course, encompass the breaking through, you know, the tearing down, there's like this, you could feel like the animals, you know, and the scratching and the breaking through on the left. And then on the right, I don't know, I kind of feel like she's there, you know, yeah.
I mean, the one on the left is pretty much the same story as the one with the fire. The lion and the bull are two of the goddesses, her main totem animals. So they're always with her in ancient sculptures and reliefs and things. So that's why they're helping her get out. But in the one on the right, that Dürer, it's sort of a little bit based on the Dürer etching, where there's all the animals, representing the humors.
Yeah.
I kind of started with that, but in this one, instead of Adam and Eve standing there together, I kind of reframed it as Eve representing the goddess, because basically that's what they did in the Old Testament. They never said the word goddess once in the whole thing. But they took apart the important things like snakes and the communion and the figs. They think they probably did that in the goddess religion with figs instead of to represent the body of the goddess. So since they're using Eve as their example to stand in for the goddess religion or priestesses, I basically made her the goddess in this one. And in the goddess religion, women is the source of life, and everything comes from women, and nature is part of the women. And so she is painted in color, and the tree is starting to come to life all around her because that's what she represents. And in this one, I kind of have Adam, or little Adam, as basically a human ladder. Because I don't know, I've always thought that he seemed like a pretty weak guy. Like he was the one who was told not to eat the apple. And Eve, there's no mention of her being told that. But anyway, as soon as she eats it, and then is like, Adam, here, it's good. He's like, okay. And he's just sort of a weak character to me. So in this, he's sort of a ladder, and of course she wants to bite the fruit of knowledge. I mean, why would you not? So she's up there learning, and like the goddess knows all the secrets. And so she's eating it because she knows all the knowledge of life and fertility. And she's up there with her friend the snake because they are supposed to be friends. The snake's an ancient protector of women in all the old religions. So I'm just kind of setting things right, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's portrayed here as strong and smart and even humorous, standing, using him as a ladder. And
you feel a little sad for Adam. Poor Adam.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's all the slides that I have. I'm going to go back to seeing all of us. So to kind of end it, I know like there's work that is on your easel at home that you haven't been able to do. Like, are you continuing the series, or what are you working on currently, or what are you going to work on when you get home?
There's so much to explore, and there's so many important things that were either written or events that actually happened back even before Jesus was born, that I think of, like the Bible in itself. It just had such a big impact on all of the women, even though now most, at least in big cities, most people are not that religious, and they may not even know half the stories in the Bible, but their parents did, and their parents did, and their parents did for thousands of years. And it's still, I mean, you still get people that are thinking that, oh, that, you know, women are bad and women are because of Eve still. And it's just, I feel like I just want to remind people that this is part of the reason why women are thought of as bad, is all these ancient things that have happened. I think if people are aware of that, then maybe it'll help us move on to, you know, being better treated and respected. So I have a lot of different Bible stories that I still like. Jezebel, all the main women in the Bible, they're important stories that need to be either turned upside down or just fleshed out somehow. So I have that for now, and then I don't know, maybe we'll start going into AD.
And that was going to be a next question is, do you have any other stories that you want to tell outside of the Bible or outside of like other feminist stories? Or, I mean, have you like just ideas floating around there based on what we're going through today or anything like that?
I mean, I am still right at home right now. I was working on the painting of Jezebel. And so I'm not done talking about that. But I also wanted to talk about, I haven't figured it out yet in my brain, but all of these powerful women in the Bible, in the Old Testament, were also described. They're usually, well, they're mixture. Sometimes they use their power of their looks for good and sometimes for evil. But I think that's really interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of gonna. I think I'm gonna make some kind of special, like just a few little series about just all the women that most women were not described as really beautiful in the Bible, but the ones that were beautiful, and they used that power to get something they wanted, either for, you know, for the good guys or the bad guys, according to the Bible. So I don't know. I feel like that's another stories like that are part of the reason why men don't trust us completely, and why we're thought of as scheming and whatever. It's because of these ancient stories partially. And I think, you know, a woman can still be, people need to understand that women can be whatever they want. If they want to be powerful, is nothing, it doesn't have to be because of their looks. And you know, there's a whole series there in itself, but that's what I think I'm looking at when I get home.
Cool.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, Sam? I saw you like.
Yeah, no, it was just like, you were talking about how like you're doing the BC and you were thinking maybe you'd get to AD, but the thing of the goddess getting overtaken by the religion happens again in early AD. That like early cult of Christ was really the cult of Isis, and women had a lot of rights and privileges and authority, and then as it becomes more popular, all that goes away again.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It keeps happening. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we definitely look forward to your new work when you get back in the studio.
Me
when you come home.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, and of course, you know, I know we have your solo show coming up at Shoebox Projects at the end of October. So we can't wait to share the work and talk more about it. Your new series, your new
too much. Kind of blab on sometimes. Sorry. Thank you for talking to me.
No, you're welcome. No, it's fantastic. It's, you know, I mean, every time we do these conversations, like we think we know, you know, like what the artist is portraying, or, you know, through your statements that you've sent us, through our visits, but then like every single time there's something new. There's something, you know, that we learn, and it's, you know, like all of us talking about our work. I learn new stuff every time I talk about my work too. So yeah, and it also brings up more questions, you know, that I hope our viewers, you know, want to know, and, you know, will contact you or will follow you, and, you know, keep an eye out. And I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is, you know, is those, you know, continuing the conversation of feminism, of, you know, women in society from, you know, throughout history into the present. And that's what's exciting about your work is, you know, is asking those questions and answering them. you know, and retelling the story.
Yeah. I just wanted to know where it all began, basically.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's okay.
Awesome. Well, you know, thank you so much for meeting with us, and
Sure.
yeah,
Thanks
and
for
having this conversation. And I think that's it. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you soon.
Okay, bye.